Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Well, have you ever spent half your afternoon chasing a simple answer about Azure, or maybe Windows, or .NET, or MAUI, or any of the other Microsoft stuff? Well, you start with a quick search, or maybe ask an AI, maybe ChatGPT, but only to second guess every response. Because when it comes to production code, probably right isn't good enough. So you end up digging up Microsoft's official docs anyway. Well, we now have a solution for that. Microsoft's new MCP server helps us to fix that loop. Well, it is a single unified gateway that links all of the Microsoft's official documentation and APIs. Windows, Azure, GitHub repos, MAUI, everything. So now, instead of juggling between tabs, you can directly query the source of truth and get your responses right away in your coding environment and get answers you can trust. I'll tell you what this MCP server is, why it matters for developers who need authoritative info fast, and how you can use it to skip the guesswork and get back to building. So by the end, you will know exactly how to cut through the noise and get Microsoft's own answers without the endless spiral search. So with this said, with this context set, let's start the video. Alright, so I'm on my Mac again and let's open VSCode. Okay, now let's go to this Copilot chat over here and let's figure out what MCP server has Microsoft bought for us for this purpose. So I'll go to this tool section. Over here, I'll click on this MCP icon and I'll say browse MCP servers. And then I'm going to say browse MCP servers again, and this shall bring me a web page. And over here, let's search for Microsoft. And we see this Microsoft Learn MCP server that has come up. So this is the name of the MCP server that will give us a handle to the Microsoft's official documentation for everything. So let's open this Microsoft Learn. And here is the GitHub repository for that MCP server. You can have a look, read through it. These are the tools that it is supporting. First one is the doc search, docs fetch, and then it also gives us a tool for code sample search. Cool. These are some of the installation and getting started things. You can read it if you want, if you are working on a different IDE other than VS Code. But because we are going to use VS Code, you need not read the documentation because I'm going to show you how we can do that over there. So over here, let's click this install in VS Code. Let's hit allow. Let's say install Microsoft Docs MCP. And yes, I think it has installed it. Let's quickly check this. I go back to my tools icon over here. And over here, I shall see the list of my tools. And I see, yes, Microsoft Docs MCP has been installed. And I get the 3 tools and all of them are selected. Pretty straightforward installation, right? Let's say OK to this. And now let me type in my first question. So I have recently been working with .NET MAUI application and I have a very genuine question over there. So let me type that and you can have a look. So when shall we use Xbind and binding in a .NET MAUI application? So Xbind is like compile time binding, whereas binding refers to runtime binding in a WPF XAML kind of thing. So let's say what it says. Okay, so it did run Microsoft Docs search using the MCP server and it ran it 3 times. Then it is saying based on my research, Xbind is a Windows specific markup extension. That is true. And you should use binding. Okay. And it says you should use binding, that is traditional runtime binding, and then compile time binding like with X data type. Okay, this is a .NET MAUI's equivalent of Xbind performance benefit. Okay, so they have specified the view model and then they have specified the view model using X data type and then they are actually doing binding. So yes, this is the true answer and very accurate. And yes, I can see that it has also run the MCP server and it has also run those tools from the Microsoft Docs MCP server. So it's good, right? But this was a simple question and I already knew the answers. so I'm going to trust it. But that might not be the case every time. Wouldn't it be good if it could also give me a reference or a URL to that document it used to get that answer? How will that be? How can we actually tell this MCP server to also include the citation for these answers, right? Now, how do we do that? Okay, so in order to achieve that, we go to this place called configure chat. I'm going to click that, then I get this prompt files over here. I'm going to hit that. It says new prompt file, okay. Then it says user data folder. I'm going to select this place, and then it needs me to enter a name of the prompt file. Okay, so I'm going to say MS Docs Assistant, right? Okay, now it has given me a window where I can actually, it's like the system prompt, but this is a system prompt that we are giving to our MCP server. So it is more of a user prompt also, you can say. So, but anyways, we are going to tell this MCP server, every time someone asks you a question about Microsoft, you use this assistant or use this prompt file in order to figure out how you should actually fetch the answers and then show the answers to the user, right? So I've already written a prompt file. I'm going to paste it over here. Okay, I'm going to share this file with you also. Let me hit save. Okay. All right. So my first thing is mode. So this should only happen when I'm running the chat in a agent mode. The model that I'm going to use, that's going to be GPT-5 mini. You can choose a different model if you want. And the tools. Now, these are the same tools that this Microsoft Docs MCP server is giving me. How do I get that? I can go to this GitHub repo and I copied this tool names over there. Okay, then the description. So Microsoft Docs Assistant always ground answers in the official Microsoft documentation via the Microsoft Docs MCP server. And this is the goal of my agent over here. Your goal is to assist with Microsoft technologies related queries by providing official guidance. Use the Microsoft Docs MCP server to find relevant documentation and code samples. Now, these are my trigger words. Every time anyone or on my machine, if someone is using this prompt, someone is querying someone is querying with Copilot Chat, and he uses any of these words where I've included MAUI, Blazor, .NET Core, ASP.NET Core, Azure, Power Platform, Dynamics 365, DevOps, SQL Server, Windows, Office, WPF, Azure, or Copilot Studio, then these are going to be my trigger words. Every time someone includes any of these words in his query, then this agent is going to kick in and use this MCP server for that purpose. Now, these are the required actions that this agent, whenever querying with this MCP server, will do. It is first going to use this doc search tool to find the documentation, and then it is going to fetch those tools and to retrieve the full page with response in complete and up-to-date guidance. Then it is going to also run this code sample search tool to find the relevant code samples. And it is then going to synthesize a concise answers to the user's question, citing the specific section of the retrieved documentation and code samples with URLs. So I'm telling this MCP server, also bring in the URLs, also cite those. Okay, so if the results seem outdated or conflicting, note it briefly and choose the most recent official guidance. So if you have been working with the Microsoft tech stack, like I've been doing all my career so far, then you would know that things become outdated in the Microsoft Docs, right? Something that worked with .NET 4, .NET standard platforms might not work with the new .NET 10. So I'm telling this MCP server that you might find conflicting versions of the answers. In such a scenario, always bring the most updated or the most recent one. Okay, what not to do? Do not use non-official blogs or forums as primary sources for Azure guidance. You can include other trigger words also into it. Fabricate flags, properties, and API versions or SQs. Verify via the official docs search and fetch first. Now, what's my output going to look like? Be concise and actionable. Include citations, title plus URL. Prefer commands and example that align with the current stable MAUI, .NET, ASP.NET Core versions and documented best practices. So prefer those kind of sources first. Alright, so I'm going to save this now. Alright, I'm now going to put in the same prompt again, but with a little difference, and let's see. So that difference is, I'm going to include this prompt file also now. I'm going to say MS Docs Assistant, and then what is the, my question was earlier, when to use Xbind and binding in .NET MAUI application. Okay, and now my belief is that it should also cite me references that it found. So it's going to use the Microsoft Docs search. It used it thrice, and then it ran the Microsoft Docs search again from this MCP server, and then it ran docs fetch and it found some references. Then it ran the code sample search, and then it is finally giving me 2-3 concise answers. Let it do its job. And now if you see, it says compile time bindings, gives me a title, gives me a URL, gives me a title again, and then also gives me a URL again, and one more title and URL. So it is quite in sync with the instruction that I gave it, that concise answers to user questions with URLs, and somewhere I said title also. So yes, it is giving me that way. It is giving me the answers in that very way. Alright, so if I open this tab now, if I open this link now, I can actually see, I can actually figure out, okay, this was the exact thing that I was looking for. I need not search the entire document library, the entire Microsoft Docs library all the time. My MCP is just going to give me the exact link to that place of the document that is most relevant to my question. Cool. So this was it for this video, and if you liked it, please like this video, consider subscribing to my channel, and I'll see you in the next video. But until then, keep learning and keep thriving. Bye.